Hi guys, happy Winedown Wednesday. I'm gonna give everyone a couple of minutes to log on, so we'll just have to be patient. And I'm so glad that you are joining. This is gonna be a fun one. It was actually really fun to kind of go back in the vault of memories and come up with all of the crazy things that have happened over the last 17 years. But I don't want to say too much until people start logging on, so we'll just give a couple minutes. I did forget to pick my kids up from school today, so that was the mom fail for Valentine's Day. So I bought myself these flowers to make myself feel better. As usual, anyone who's logging on, if you have any funny stories of being a wedding guest or things that have happened when you've been at weddings, please feel free to share, because we always love hearing other people's stories. This is 17 years of crazy stories. I have some locations around the country, and so a lot of these stories are kind of a conglomeration. We, of course, are going to protect the innocent and try to be discreet in telling them, because some of them are quite wild. But we all got together, all my girls around the country, and just kind of started reminiscing about the different things that had happened. And it was funny because they actually remembered some stories that I had forgotten, which made it even more entertaining and fun. So I feel like whenever I get together with my clients, especially the parents, like for drinks or lunch or dinner, they always say, what is the craziest thing that's ever happened at a wedding? And I always have an answer, because there's been so many, but there's been so many that sometimes I have to remember which one was the craziest. And so I thought, okay, instead of spending this Instagram Live talking about budgets and venues and dates, my Valentine's Day gift to you would be to share the crazy things that have happened. And the fun thing about it is that we have multiple markets with Table 6, and so different things have happened in different areas. So this is just, and I hope I can get through this in an hour, because Instagram's going to kick me off. But if you get on late, you can now view all the videos that I do every Wednesday for Winedown Wednesday on my YouTube channel, Table 6 Productions 2020. Every time I do one, I'm going to put it up there, because sometimes people log on, halfway through and miss half of it. So, and we're trying something new tonight. So if I'm like looking in all different directions, there's multiple cameras. We've got Instagram Live, Facebook Live, personal Facebook, professional Facebook, YouTube Live. So hopefully I don't look like I'm like looking all over the place. I haven't even like had my goblet of wine yet. Okay. So, I'm going to get started, but hang on. Okay, so I made a list just so I wouldn't forget any of them, and I'm going to have to look at it on occasion just to refresh. But my very first wedding I did back in 2004 was a referral from someone. And I got a story. We had the entire groom's family leave the wedding just before the ceremony started. Ooh, I want to hear more about that. Okay, at the end, I want to hear more about that. Why'd that happen? So, first story. Very first wedding I did was a traditional Mexican wedding, which obviously being my very first wedding, I had no idea what that meant. The ceremony was in a Catholic church, and it was July 4th. It was so hot. Everyone knows in Colorado, July 4th is like brutal. So hot. This ceremony was at like noon. Everyone was hammered. There was no AC in the church. Okay, that was fine. I got through that. The guys were all drinking on the side of the church, okay, whatever. I guess in the Catholic religion, that's accepted because everybody seemed fine with it. But when we got to the reception, they had like tequila flowing. It was like 2 p.m. A Tejano band, a DJ, another kind of band. They had a food truck with Mexican food. I mean, super cool. So I sat down and I was talking to one of the groomsmen and I said, hey, how do you know the groom? And he said, oh, we actually met in the Slammer in California. And I was like, oh, great. So obviously that's jail, which I didn't really know back then, but he explained. So they were in jail together. Okay, fine. Like, I wasn't going to say anything because now I was scared. And I wanted to dress festive. It was my very first wedding. So I wore like this black dress and it had little fringe on the bottom with beads and, like a little asymmetrical thing. And I was like, oh, I want to like go with the decor. Well, anyway, apparently as I was walking back and forth doing my duties, and then of course the bow fell off the cake because it was a fondant cake. And it was so hot, the bow fell off, so I was trying to fix that. So anyway, back and forth, back and forth. Well, apparently one of the groomsmen was looking at my butt, and his wife was a bridesmaid, and she was sitting right next to him, and she got pissed and punched him in the face. So then this whole big fight broke out, like literally like throwing bottles. I mean, it was insane. I had no idea what to do. It was my very first wedding, so I did the only thing I knew to do, which was to leave. So I literally left, didn't say bye, and that was the end of that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna hear from these people. Never heard from them again. I'm sure they were embarrassed. But that was my very first experience, and I'm surprised that I actually kept doing it after that. So yeah, I call that the Mexican fight wedding. Okay, so we had a wedding at a very popular venue. I won't say the name, but it was in the movie The Shining, so you could probably figure it out. And this is right when marijuana got legalized in Colorado for medical use. And the groom was very involved in that industry, and so everybody was, getting high all day. And this particular hotel was not okay with it. So they kept saying, please don't do that on property. We're not okay with it. They didn't stop. So it really pissed the property off. And so by the time they went to dinner, the cops showed up during the salad course because the groom's father was snorting cocaine off the cocktail table at cocktail hour. Just, right out there, just... So anyway, the hotel reported him, called the cops, and the groom's dad got arrested during the salad course. So yeah, and so after the groom's dad got arrested for doing cocaine, then the bride's mother hooked up with the groom's grandfather. Yeah, all in one wedding. So anyway, that was a crazy one. I haven't actually worked at that venue since, but yeah, so don't do cocaine at cocktail hour on the high top or hook up with the grandfather. Okay, I'm saving my best story for last because people are still logging on and it will blow your mind. Like literally, no pun intended. That's a little teaser. Okay, so had a wedding, probably 2009-ish. And the bride thought it would be a fun idea while she was getting her hair and makeup done to do mushrooms. Yeah, you see a theme here in Colorado? It's like, I guess the Chardonnay isn't enough. So yeah, so she did mushrooms with her girls while she was getting ready and did not make it to the reception. It was like pretty sad, and I felt really bad because her parents had spent a lot of money on the wedding, literally didn't make it, like completely tweaked out and never made it to the reception. Everybody else did. She like fell asleep. So that was that one. So one year, it's probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I decided that I thought it'd be a really fun idea to start doing flowers for my weddings because, why not, right? I have all these great ideas and, It's so easy. Yeah, it is not. So just fast forward. I will never do flowers like ever again. I have like mad respect for florists. It is so much work. I don't know how they make any money. And I have so much respect for them and their pricing. So we'll just say that. But this one particular year, I decided that I was going to do flowers, and I wanted this particular bride to, you know, get more for her money. So I was like, oh yeah, I can handle all this stuff. And it was an Indian wedding, and it was in Vail. And Indian weddings are very early in the morning, like 11 a.m. So literally we had to get up at like 5 a.m. to go decorate this mandap. And so decorated the mandap, and I had a girl on my team at the time who had done flowers in the past, so it wasn't like I was total shot in the dark. But she had done flowers in the past and was like, oh, I got it, you know, I'll handle it. You go back and work on this, and was putting all the stuff together and, you know, hanging the garlands that we hand strung fishing line and carnations. And I mean, it's like a thing. So we do the ceremony, and she's like, you know what, you can leave. I'll handle the rest of the ceremony. Go back to our condo and start working on the reception pieces. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I do. And then all of a sudden, I get a text message that a huge gust of wind came through, blew the aspen trunk, which is like very heavy, mandap over, hit the priest in the head, the Indian priest, and like knocked him out. And like the bride started crying. I was like, I mean, I definitely have PTSD weddings, like where I literally can probably just write a book on the 10 PTSD weddings, whether it was the family or the bride or like a situation that happened at the wedding that literally like I start sweating. Like I'm sweating right now, just even talking about it. But I mean, could you imagine? I'm like, I'm getting sued by the Indian priest. I'm getting sued by the bride. Like, this is horrible. I didn't even want to show my face. So I run down there. They continued the ceremony like off in a grassy area because there was no mandap anymore. And I literally like hid from the bride the rest of the night. I like had my girls there. I'm like, no, you go tell her it's time to dance. Like I was like off in a corner. Anyway, long story short, how I fixed it and didn't get sued, and actually they walked away and said it was an amazing wedding. And what was even cooler, like it's not cool that someone got hit with a mandap, especially when I was doing the flowers, is that apparently when the mandap blew over, it was during this part of the Indian wedding, which they're like 2 hours long, and half the time I can't even understand what they're saying, but it's very like, there's all kinds of little ceremonies. So it was during the time when they were talking about evil spirits like leaving the relationship or something. And right when that happened, it blew over. And so they are very auspicious, and they looked at that as like the evil spirits left the building or the mandap, you know, the area. And so that was kind of cool. I was like, okay, you know, turned a bad situation into a good. But then what I did at the end, I felt so horrible, is I knew this girl was having an after party in her like big condo because I had bought all the booze and ordered all the pizzas, $900 worth of booze and pizzas. Yeah, guess who paid for it? Yeah, so $900 to not get sued. I think I did the right thing. And they were very happy, and I even heard like the best man's girlfriend like, oh my gosh, did you hear the wedding planner paid for the whole after party? I mean, I was like, it was the least I could do. I practically killed the priest. So yeah, so anyway, that was my last venture into the floral world. So I see my friend Signa on here, and she's amazing, Petals and Pours, and she knows that I know how much work goes into that, and I never want to do it again. It's horrible. So anyway, oh, my friend Erin did this particular bride's hair, and she just made a comment because she remembers the story. Yeah, so this particular bride didn't pay Erin for 2 months. So yeah, that kind of sucked. I'm sorry, Erin. I know we have good stories together too. So yeah, I'll never do flowers again unless it's like throw some pre-made garlands that I got in the mail on a table and like call it a day. Okay, so this was a wedding of mine that I actually planned but did not execute. I had one of my girls fly in. Every once in a while, like, people hire us and they don't have a date yet. And so then they pick a date, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I already have a wedding, but I do have a team of girls. And so if that happens, I still plan the wedding, and one of my girls fly in and they execute the wedding. It works out totally fine. But this particular wedding, so this particular bride was doing kind of the no carbs, no sugar, no anything, no alcohol for, 3 months leading up to her wedding. And so, okay, she like totally lost her tolerance. So that's a really dumb idea. Like, don't do that. I mean, cut back, but don't like not drink for 3 months unless you're pregnant. But don't not drink for 3 months and then go to your wedding and like start doing shots. You're gonna like vomit everywhere, which is exactly what happened. So she didn't eat, drink, or do anything for 3 months, and then at her wedding like went crazy. I was at my wedding right down the way at the Four Seasons. One of the girls that works with me was doing my wedding and literally was texting me like, oh my gosh, she's passed out on the bathroom floor, what every bride imagines their day, passed out on the bathroom floor, vomiting, okay, in a white dress, yeah, vomiting, passed out on a white floor, had to be carried out of her own wedding by like groomsmen and stuff. And they almost called like the fire department because they thought she got alcohol poisoning. So anyway, that's how her wedding ended. Needless to say, one of my good friend photographers, who I'm not going to mention, shot the wedding and would not give me any of the photos. I really wanted to see him. I'm like, come on, go in there and take some pictures. But, he was trying to be respectful. So anyway, I didn't get any of those pics. But, yeah, so don't do that. Like, cut back. And just have fun at your wedding, but don't vomit and pass out on the bathroom floor. Unless it's like in your hotel room after you get back from your wedding, that's totally fine. Then nobody knows except your new husband, which, nothing would have happened that night then. Okay, let's see. I'm looking at my notes here. So this one isn't as scandalous. I had to throw some like non-scandalous ones in there. However, it was very difficult for me and my team. So we had a calligrapher that we sent, because you guys, like, being a wedding planner is so great, but it's 90% non-glamorous and 10% amazing, because we rely on so many people to do their part. And at the end of the day, if people screw up, we're the ones that get blamed, like for everything. Like if a shuttle didn't show up, it would be our fault somehow. So that's just kind of the hard part of our job, but it's just kind of one of those things, and we just have to accept it. But in this particular case, it was a 250-person wedding. The calligrapher did beautiful calligraphy on all these little place cards with the envelope and the whole thing. And okay, well, anyway, like, they changed the list, and she used the wrong list. Even when she was told, make sure you delete that list and make sure you use this list, because they moved some people around. Okay, well, guess what? She did not. She used the old list, and so we're sitting there, and all the people are coming in all excited, and and this was just a difficult family to begin with. So everyone's coming in, and literally swarms. I'm talking swarms of people. I have a clipboard, so of course they come to me, because it's like, oh, you look official. And so they come to me and they're like, hi, it says I'm sitting at table 6, but when I go to table 6, like, my place card's not there. And it's like, oh, okay, well, let me help you. And luckily I always have a list, and I have lists, like 10 different lists. And then the next and the next, and I'm talking 30, 40, 50 people start coming up to me. I'm like ready to explode. My husband's there. Luckily, he has a list. My assistant's there. She has a list. So we were able to divide and conquer. So it wasn't every single person, but literally a quarter of the wedding was seated in the wrong. And I mean, that is like a wedding planner's nightmare. And unfortunately, I did everything I was supposed to do to make sure that something like that doesn't happen, and checked the list against the seats. But when you use the wrong list, so yeah, that happened. Okay, So here's another one that kind of is along those lines. You know, we'll get off the drugs for a little bit and the Mexican fights. So I did a wedding in Jersey. Nothing against Jersey if anybody watching is from Jersey. However, I'll never do a wedding in Jersey again because I was super traumatized. So at this particular wedding, just to preface, like, I don't do my client seating charts. They say who sits where, and then when people get all upset, you know, it's our fault, and why'd they sit me with this person? And it's like, I have no idea. And, you know, again, another thing we get blamed for. But at this particular wedding, these 3 Jersey aunts, really jerky Jersey aunts, and they chewed me out. I am not even kidding, because they couldn't believe that they had traveled all the way that they traveled and didn't sit them with so-and-so. And I was like, well, I'm really sorry, you know, I didn't do the seating chart. I just went along with what she wanted. And I mean, Real Housewives of New Jersey, okay? Just imagine it. Literally, it was so bad. I hid for the rest of the night. I made my assistant execute the wedding, and I cried in the kitchen, like behind a garbage can. I mean, even the kitchen staff was like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, we saw them totally attacking you. And I was just like, ah, and I like sat there and, you know, I mean, literally like in a ball, crying like a 3-year-old. Literally hid from them for the rest of the night and left, and like, we'll never go back to Jersey again. So we get blamed for a lot of seating things. So any brides out there, you really think about your seating charts, because if people don't like where they're sitting, they come after me, like literally come after me. Okay. This is kind of a funny one. So it was a wedding that we did with a caterer, a brand new caterer that we worked with, and it was raining, it was cold, it was like ridiculous. And oh, I love that hashtag jerky Jersey. That's so fun. I'm totally gonna title this one that. Thank you, Where in the World. This caterer, we were working with them for the very first time. The client picked them, and we went to the tasting, and they were great. And again, this was on the East Coast, not in Jersey, in a different state. But apparently the caterer forgot to put salt and pepper shakers on their tables. And so they got through dinner, and apparently the caterer knew that they forgot them and just never mentioned it. So everyone got through dinner, and they were going to dancing now, and everyone was so happy and, you know, pretty lit up by this point. And I was standing by the bar, and this woman comes up to me, and she's like, oh, honey, are you the wedding planner? And I was like, yeah, actually I am, thinking for sure I'm getting a compliment, right? Best wedding I've ever been to. I usually hear, oh, I know, da-da-da, yeah, and that's me, I did it all. Yeah, no. She came up to me and she was like, are you the wedding planner? Yes, I am. Okay, well, let me just tell you, you did a phenomenal job. Oh, thank you so much. I love hearing that. But next time, don't forget the fucking salt and pepper shakers. And I was like, oh my God, what are you talking about? And I literally had no idea what she was talking about, but I was like, geez, lady, I mean, by the looks of her, I'm like, you really should lay off the salt, actually. But of course I didn't say that because I was on the East Coast. So I go to the caterer, and they're like, oh yeah, we totally forgot to put the salt and pepper shakers on the truck. And I was like, oh my God, like there's a Walmart next door. I've been to the Walmart like 3 times during the day because it was raining, and then people were tracking mud from the grass onto the dance floor. So I went to Walmart. I bought big black like carpet things, and I like carpeted the grass so you could walk into the tent. I went to Walmart to buy white towels to wipe off the dance floor. I mean, I was at Walmart like 3 or 4 times. I was like, why didn't you tell me I would have gone to Walmart and got the salt and pepper shakers? And they're like, oh. So yeah, see, we try to fix things. Like, that is our job. I mean, plan A, B, C, D, Z. That is our job. But that particular case, I'm like, you're lazy. I could have fixed that, and then I just got chewed out by this woman for getting salt and pepper. Or you need to season your food better so they don't need salt and pepper. So anyway, yeah, I got blamed for that too. Oh, this is a good one. You're not gonna believe this. Okay, so this was a Vail wedding, and it was an LA. It was an LA group. And there were some reality TV people there that I will not mention. But it was a pretty fast crowd. Like, I literally am not kidding. I watched people go back and forth to the bathroom all night. And so what I'm thinking in my mind is either they have really bad diarrhea or something's going on in the bathroom that I don't know. And so the head catering sales manager for the venue literally came up to me and was like, Heather, there's so much cocaine in the bathroom, like I don't even know what to do. And I was like, oh, now I get why they're going to the bathroom so much. Okay, that makes sense. But I'm like, sad. So, going along, and sitting there like watching the dancing happen, and all of a sudden my husband comes up to me because he helps me sometimes on my weddings, and he's free, which duh. So he comes up to me and he's like, oh my God, Heather, you have to come over here. And I was like, what? The mother of the groom had gone up to him, found a machete on the dance floor. A freaking machete, like a real machete, not like a photo booth prop. Yeah, so real machete on the dance floor, and I'm like, okay. And she's like, well, we have this crazy family member that wasn't invited to the wedding, and he lives up here, and so we just think that maybe he like planted this. I'm like, what? Like, what? How? I probably should have known that, ahead of time. And so, yeah, so the whole security team of the hotel had to show up, remove the machete, and we all survived. But, yeah, machete at the wedding. The machete wedding. Or the machete wedding. Oh my God, I love all these hashtags coming through. Okay. I'm realizing that like a lot of these stories all happen in Vail. Like, what's happening in Vail? I love Vail, by the way. So, nothing against Vail, but a lot of these are happening in Vail. So this next one was a bride and a groom who I worked with, and they were great, and had their wedding in Vail, had a couple of kids together, so they were kind of doing it, reverse style. Had a couple kids together, and they ended up having everyone in their whole bridal party, and apparently everyone at the wedding was doing Molly, which was kind of new to me. I was like, what are you talking about? And at the time I had a dog named Molly, so I was like, oh, are they talking about my lab? Like, what's going on? So yeah, so anyway, everyone in the entire wedding was doing Molly and cocaine in the bathroom, and eventually the groom came up to me and asked me to do it with them. Like, who does that? How am I supposed to run your wedding and go do that? Not to mention I would never do that. But I was like, are you insane? I tried to be like polite. I was like, oh, thanks so much. Like, I prefer wine. And I have kids. And they're like, yeah, us too. And I was kind of like, yeah, you might want to like look at that. And so anyway, so apparently they were all mixing Molly and cocaine in the bathroom, and like the groom started vomiting profusely. So that was fun. So that particular hotel had like a massive cleanup on aisle 3 with the Molly and the cocaine mixture. So let's like keep the drugs out of the weddings, people. Like, save it for Red Rocks or something, a Red Rocks concert. I don't know, but I mean, clearly I've talked about cocaine, mushrooms, vomiting, drinking too much, Molly, and I'm only through half my list. Okay, so this one's just kind of funny. It's not really funny, but it's not really great. So a father of the bride was giving a speech, and so like when they come to our weddings and everybody sits down, we do the champagne. And yeah, say no to drugs, Megan. I agree. We need to start running that campaign again with the bacon frying with the brain on drugs. I'm like totally showing my age now. So the father of the bride was giving his little welcome speech, and thank you everybody for coming, and it came from so far, and all that jazz. And then he went to talk about the bride and groom, and he called the groom by the ex-boyfriend's name. Yeah. Like, oh, Heather and John. Oh, wait, I mean Jim. Yeah. Okay, don't do that. That was a bad one. How embarrassing. The bride was like mortified. The groom was mortified. He hates John and Jim. So don't do that. The speech thing. Yeah, so try to get the names right. Maybe try not to have too many drinks ahead of time. Definitely no drugs before your speech, because literally my entire list, apparently we have a problem here. And on that note, this wasn't on my list, but I actually had one of my probably first 10 weddings. The band introduced the bride and groom as the best man and maid of honor. His name. Like, oh, now introducing, so-and-so, and it wasn't even the right names. Like, how embarrassing, like, what do you do then? Ugh, that's the worst. And I hate that too, because I'm like, I gave you like a really specific timeline. It said the names on there, like, follow my script and you won't screw up. But I love my bands, but sometimes they're horrible MCs, and then they try to get all creative, and half of them are, had a few drinks, because apparently they play better then. And then they get the names all messed up, and everything's kind of all jumbled up, and yeah, it's not fun. So anyway, don't do that. This is a fun one. So this story is out of Florida. One of my girls was doing the rehearsal, and she was introducing all the people, and okay, this is so-and-so, and you walk together, and blah, blah, blah. And so she did the rehearsal, and everybody went on their merry way. Well, the next day when she went to do the ceremony, this guy showed up that wasn't Tyrone. Tyrone was the guy that was in the wedding. And so George shows up. I'm using fake names, by the way. And so George shows up, and she's like, well, hold on a second. Like, what happened to Tyrone? And he's like, oh, he actually got arrested last night. He had a warrant out, and I guess they went out and partied and had too much fun. And so, yeah, he got arrested. And so Uncle George had to fill in for Tyrone during the ceremony. So, yeah, that was a bad one. Getting arrested. We just had a wedding. This isn't on my list either, but it did remind me, like 2 years ago, we had a wedding where apparently one of the groomsmen got too rowdy the night before, and the groom kicked him out of the bridal party. So we were like one man down the next day, and literally it was like, you cannot come to the wedding. And I never got the story. I always want the story, like what happened, but I didn't get the story. So yeah, try not to get arrested, before your friend's wedding. That's always like a good thing. Okay, so the next one. So this one's kind of like meh, but it happened, and it's one of those PTSD ones again, where like things happen and you're like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Because I can't really, pull a person out of my bridal emergency kit, or like a projector. There's times when people are like, oh, not anymore, but like years ago when I got into the business, people would be like, this is why I don't do day ofs. You show up, and you don't usually just show up. You meet, but then it's all of a sudden like, oh, my Aunt Susie wants to do, a presentation, like on a screen with a projector, like with pictures and music. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, did you get a projector and stuff? Because you never actually mentioned this. And yeah, no. So like, I guess they assume like we travel with projectors and screens and, all kinds of stuff like that. So that's why I don't like to do day-ofs, because I don't like being caught off guard. And yeah. Okay, so this one is kind of along those lines. So we did a wedding at a private ranch a couple years ago, and like covered all our bases. I mean, asked every question that you could ever ask. like brought in like bathrooms and generators and all the things that we've learned through the years that you have to think about. And so during the wedding, this particular groom was starting a restaurant, so it was really important to him that his restaurant cater the wedding, even though the restaurant wasn't open yet. So I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And that's always when I'm like, oh, please, please, can we hire a professional caterer? Like, I'm sure your restaurant's amazing. Can we like do the rehearsal dinner there? Like, you can cater the brunch or like something that, you know, I'm like done and gone. And then if it messes up, like, it's not on me. No, wanted to do the wedding. Okay, fine. Did multiple meetings. I mean, I'm talking like so many meetings about this thing. We were talking about 12 glasses, 16 glasses, ice cubes. I mean, the size of the ice cube. So much detail, more than typically you would do. And so everybody gets there. It's beautiful. And lo and behold, he forgot to mention that his house is actually on a well. So if your house is on a well system, you only have so much water, right? So if people go in your house and flush the toilet, you know, it uses up that. If they run the sink, it uses up that. So the caterers were like working in kind of like a little pop-up tinny kind of catering kitchen thing that they built. Yeah, well, between all the people that were at the house all day setting up and the day before using all the water, by the time it came to cook the dinner, which last time I checked, you need water to boil rice, which was part of the meal. Yeah, there wasn't any. The well was empty. And the ice machine didn't make ice because apparently you need water to make ice too. Yeah, so guess what? My husband, I know, isn't he the greatest? Went into town and like raided an ice machine thing, you know, the bags of ice, like loaded the SUV up like head to toe with bags of ice. So at least there was ice for cocktails. I couldn't help the toilet flushing thing. Luckily we had brought in, you know, bathrooms, so as long as you didn't go in the house, you were fine. But how were we now going to boil the water to make the rice to go with this like fish dish? So it was very stressful. A lot of the people were from the East Coast, from a very sunny, warm environment. It was in September. It got a little chilly. They were outside, and needless to say, they made it happen. But if that were my restaurant, I don't know that I'd want that to be like my first impression. Although the food like looked fantastic, but it took like a couple hours to come out because we had to wait for the well to fill up. So if you ever do a wedding on a private property, make sure you find out if it's a well or a septic, or I don't even know what the terms are. But you know, those are one of those things. It's like, oh, you might have wanted to tell me that. So that's one of those top 10 PTSD weddings. Yeah, ice baby hashtag. Okay, so this has actually happened a couple of times, at least 3 to 5 times. Mothers of the bride, they just get so nervous, I guess, and depending on their personality, they get so nervous at weddings, and they self-medicate. And we have literally had this happen like 5 times. But one case in particular, our mother of the bride took a Klonopin, which I'm not super familiar with, but apparently it like calms you down. And it was time for her to get her hair and makeup done. And she literally was like this, like asleep. So my hair and makeup crew had to go in and literally like do the hair, put on the eyeshadow and the mascara. I can't even imagine. I wasn't there for that particular part, but I like was like, oh my God, I just can't imagine. So like, mothers of the bride, have some champagne or something, like start out with something lighter, you know. We don't want that to be the memory of your daughter's wedding. Yeah, so again, I think we see a theme here. Say no to drugs. All of them, any of them. Um, okay, I have two more, and I told you I was going to save my best for last. So then, if anybody, I'll do a little review for some of you guys that have logged on, not telling the whole story. And then I will put this up on my YouTube channel, Table 6 Productions 2020. But two more, with my last one being the best, that's going to blow your socks off. So we actually had an event at a hotel, and the entertainment didn't tell us that they were going to use fog and smoke machines. And so this has happened on occasion, happened to me, and it happened actually to some of my girls on the East Coast. They used fog machines and smoke machines, and when you do that in a hotel, it's going to set off the water sprinkler things, you know, that put out the fire. So yeah, that happened. Nobody knew they were using them. The freaking water things were going off. The bonus was that the fire department showed up, and the bride was like super excited. She got pictures. She was actually thought it was kind of funny and got like pictures with the firemen. And so, you know, I guess that was like the bright side of it. But it's happened a couple of times on the East Coast too, where fog machines, smoke machines, no one knows, and then, you know, fire departments are showing up and water sprinklers are going off, and you're evacuating a ballroom and all kinds of stuff. So that's not fun. So, you know, definitely no smoke and fog. Okay, so here's my last one. This one's a doozy. And then I might have some bonus ones I can think of, because I know I've got like funny ones where one of my first 10 weddings I ever did, the caterer lost the lamb, and I always joke that if I wrote a book, the very first chapter would be called The Lost Lamb. And so they lost the lamb, a whole like 3 trays of it, which was basically about 30 people's dinner. Lost it, couldn't find it. They went to serve the lamb, and it was gone. And then they looked around, and then finally the chef like ran off to the grocery store to get the lamb, and they brought it in, they started cooking it up, but of course that was late, so these people like didn't get to eat for 45 minutes to an hour. And then they served it, and then some guy like went over in the corner and opened a hot box. There it was, they found the lamb. Yeah, so that was kind of one of my first experiences with that. So if I do write a book, first chapter is going to be called The Lost Lamb, and you're going to know about that one. Okay, so the last story, I saved the best for last. So, you know, we always check on our brides and grooms while they're getting ready during the day, and we make sure they have food and drinks and hair and makeup's going well, and we check in with everyone. And this particular wedding, you know, everyone was doing well, and, you know, the girls were off getting photos, and we were about to start the ceremony, and we went into the groom's hotel room, the bride and groom, you know, like where the guys were getting ready. So the guys get ready in one spot, girls get ready in another spot. So went into the guys' hotel room. So we always have keys, so that we can get in, we can make sure the room gets clean and do the turn down thing with the hearts and the champagne and get the bridesmaid stuff and return the gifts. And so we have full access to the rooms. So go into the room to tell the groom that it is time for the ceremony to begin, and it's time to come down. And I've been practicing ways to like tell this story, but basically he was getting a blowy by the best man. Yeah, not even the maid of honor, the best man. And he was marrying a woman. So what do you do when that happens? You just like put your clipboard up and you're like, okay, so whenever you're done here, we will be ready for you to start the ceremony. Okay, see you in a few. Like, can you believe that? Yeah. So that's our craziest story. I saved it for last. I'm so glad you guys hopefully hopefully it was worth waiting till the end. So, little recap. And then we will put this video up on YouTube. We have our Mexican fight, our cocaine dad that got arrested at the hotel I won't mention. That was in the movie, The Shining. We had the bride who did mushrooms. Yeah, don't do that because you're not going to make it to your reception. The mundop that fell because of the winds and hit the priest in the head. The mundop that we built. Yeah. The bride vomiting in the bathroom because she like dieted too hard and didn't eat and lost her total drinking tolerance. The calligrapher who messed up all the seating cards, which actually definitely, I still hear the last name of that wedding sometimes and legit like break out in hives and start drinking. I'm not even kidding. The Jersey women who chewed me out because they didn't like what table they were sitting out and like literally came after me and I like cried in the kitchen all night. The caterer forgot the salt and pepper shakers and I got blamed for that one. I got blamed for that one too because apparently this woman really likes salt and pepper. So maybe like pack your own salt and pepper in your purse or something. I don't know. I like have it in my bridal emergency kit now because then I can just whip it out and be like, here you go. And then reviewing the machete on the dance floor. Yeah, not that one. Doing Molly at your wedding. No. Don't say the wrong guy's name when you're giving a speech, or a girl for that matter. The groomsmen that got arrested the night before, and then the uncle had to fill in, and like the tux. Oh my gosh, they said the tux like didn't even fit. It was so kind of funny. I really want to see the photos of that one. The band introducing the bride and groom with the wrong names. Running out of water at a private ranch when you're trying to like show off your restaurant's capabilities. Yeah, no. The smoke and fog that sets off the fire department. No. And then definitely, if you're a best man or groom, no sexual acts on the day of the wedding. Just do it. Figure out another time to do it. And I kind of wonder if those guys are still together. You know, I need to find that out. I like to follow up sometimes and be like, oh, are you still with her? Are you guys together? Or you know what? So anyway, thank you guys for listening. I will post this on my YouTube channel so you can go back and watch it and be completely entertained, I hope. And I'll definitely do another one. This inspired me because I know that like not everybody's planning a wedding. So, and if you're not a wedding planner, you don't really care about how to put a budget together and how to pick a venue and a wedding date, and there was a lot of interest in this type of story, and so I was like, I'm definitely gonna mix one in every month because I want to talk about like the top 10 worst families or brides or couples or grooms that I've ever worked with, obviously keeping names, you know, and some of them are from so long ago. I know like for a fact they're not even married and they're definitely not watching this, so I feel comfortable sharing. But like some of the worst people we've ever worked with, and we all get them. Luckily they're few and far between now because I feel like when we work with clients now, we're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing us, and we're trying to make sure that we're both a good fit. Because I definitely can tell, I can walk away and go like, you couldn't pay me enough to work with those people, or I could do everything right and I'm going to be a failure no matter what in those people's eyes. Like, you know, you just kind of learn that through doing it for so long. But I think in March, I will do a fun one on some things that have happened with families that you would also be mortified about through the planning process. So, thanks for joining. Does anyone have any stories that they want to share or things that have happened? I've seen a lot of comments. Hopefully this was like super entertaining. I know some of it's like unbelievable. I know, and I didn't share that one with you, Erin. You know I have so many. Like I forget them sometimes. So if anybody has anything else they want to say, I kind of want to hear, Jason and Darius, if you're still on, I want to hear why the grooms, oh, you're still on. Okay. I want to hear either that one or why the entire groom's family left and you had to totally redo the entire reception. While he's writing, or she, depending on which one of them's watching, we've definitely had some weddings called off. A ton in 2009, 5 actually in 2009, and they were all at the same resort. So then, like a couple years later, when people wanted to get married there, I was like, are you sure? Because I had 5 weddings called off here like a couple years ago. Okay, so, okay, Victoria, mother of the bride, had her sister walking around the whole wedding taking photos of every little thing that went wrong so she could get refunds. Oh my God, are you serious? That is crazy. Okay. Oh, darn. Okay, Jason and Darius are having a hard time coming back in. But they had shared a story earlier about how at one of their weddings, they're photographers, one of their weddings before things started, the entire groom's family left. So sounds like there was some family drama. Oh my gosh, Victoria. So Victoria's story about the mom walking around, or the sister walking around taking pictures of everything, happened in Vail. Like, what is happening in Vail? I love Vail, by the way. I love working in Vail. But I did do a wedding there a few years ago with 2 families, and the one family had a home in Aspen, and the other family had a home in Vail, and the Aspen family called it Vile. Which is so horrible, but I just laughed every time. I'm like, that is so rude. And they're like, yeah, they call it Vile instead of Vail because they have a house in Aspen. I love Vail. It's one of my very favorite places actually to plan weddings. In Colorado, of course. So 50 people left this particular wedding before it even got started. I assume that the groom's family maybe didn't like the bride's family. Also, one last spring, the groomsmen were all doing acid. Okay, I bet that was interesting. They probably were seeing all kinds of fun things. I'd love to see some pictures from that one. Yeah, unfortunately, especially in Colorado, so many things are so readily available, and people feel like that's the time to party, and I'd say that's definitely not the time to. I also am going to do a fun one in April about people that have worked for me that no longer work for me and some of the things they have done. Oh yeah, like calls from, oh, my wedding planner, this was in another state, my wedding planner got wasted and passed out in the bushes. Oh wow, that's great. That's why I stopped opening so many locations, because it's not their name, it's mine, and I realized I was basically just babysitting. It's very hard to get people to take it as serious as you do when it's yours. So I'm gonna do a segment on that, because there have been some doozies of people that have worked for us over the last 17 years that have done some really screwed up stuff. Oh, so the acid was mixed in water bottles and the wedding planner oh my gosh. So the acid was mixed in water bottles and the wedding planner grabbed a water bottle and drank it and was tripping for 24 hours. Oh my gosh. That is such a good story. I mean, I feel so bad for the wedding planner, but that's a good one. I like that. Does anybody else have any before we get off? And we can totally get on another time and talk about this. Maybe we can all share stories, because I know all of you have them. Hair, makeup, floral, photography, videography, catering. Everybody has, some fun stories to share. These are just a few of ours. We could literally go on for hours on this stuff. We had to kind of narrow down to some of our favorites, but thank you guys so much for joining me. Happy early Valentine's Day. And if you miss this, it will be up on YouTube in 24 hours. Table 6 Productions 2020. And I hope everybody has an amazing Valentine's Day. Thank you. Thanks for all your comments and your stories. Have a great night. Bye.